anytime these companies have a new feature, they push so much organic traffic behind this new feature. And
Yeah.
right now we're sitting in a new feature, which is these shorts and these reels. So it would be kind of irresponsible for us to not start our journey with the thing that Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn are pushing the most right now from an organic reach standpoint.
Why don't we give an example? The other
Yep.
day, we're just testing this, and Chris has put a little short reel together. I've done something from a perspective of the dirty word auction, so to speak, auction associated with foreclosure and whatever. So on our Instagram page, we did a quick little short of that. In the last 30 days, that has equated over the last 4 days or however long it's been up for 99.9% of all of the interest that has come through our page and all the views that have come through our page. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Well, folks, welcome back into the fold, Mr. Chris Cochran. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for having me.
Well, so interesting is that Director of Marketing is the official title that we've given you, but I would say, you are more so the Director of Content in general, if we were to look at it that way. It's funny from a perspective of when it comes to Chris's re-entry into the Harcourts Auctions family. I think that there's a few people out there that want to know where you've been, for those that affectionately know you, Chris, and they need a little bit of background story. But secondarily to that, mate, it's been a pretty precise, I would call it, venture for you over the last number of years, not in the Harcourts Auction family. It's been precise from a perspective of your venture into the startup world, your venture into the digital marketing space. And we're planning on having Chris as a frequent guest on the podcast to give his insight into the better way to digitally market yourself and get better exposure as a realtor out there in the community, but also anybody that's obviously listening. But Chris, for those that are listening and want to understand your journey, why don't you give us a bit of a view into it?
Yeah, a little download, right?
Yeah.
So
See that it's already getting digital. A little download.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So about a decade ago, I jumped into real estate kind of full steam ahead, and started real estate marketing over a decade ago, which was fun. I worked for a bunch of different brands, a bunch of different real estate agents, started my own agency, did a bunch of fun things. I then ventured into Harcourts. I want to say it was 2017, 2018. Got connected with you and everything like that. Led me over to Australia to lead up their digital marketing efforts over there for Australia, which was super awesome to do. Was able to do that from the international side. So we worked in, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, helped you guys out in the United States, Canada, everything like that. So that was super fun. That was in the middle of COVID, which was super, super, super interesting. Obviously, as you know, from Australia's standpoint, they locked down pretty hard. So we couldn't travel anywhere. We couldn't kind of experience the country that we moved to and wanted to be a part of. So then we ventured back home. I joined a couple B2B SaaS companies that were focused on demand generation and trying to basically pave their own way inside of complex industries for both veterinarians as well as shipping industries for two different companies. So I jumped in full steam from there, and then made my way back to Harcourts as everyone knows officially now.
So I think that it's important to obviously acknowledge some of the journey that you've been on, because that was a really good quick synopsis of it. But first of all, starting off in the real estate space, is that one of the real reasons that you've been as valuable as what you've been to, the Harcourts Auction family and obviously the Harcourts family as a whole, is because of your industry knowledge coupled with then the digital acquisition knowledge or the digital exposure knowledge that then you've obviously gone through and learned along the ways. But you starting off within the real estate space and helping them not only with the sale of real estate and understanding the process of all of that, but then also from the digital front of helping people build website, get better traffic to that website, the standard SEO stuff that existed back, a decade ago, which would be in comparison to the time now incredibly simplistic, but still really, really, really difficult to navigate because there still wasn't anybody out there that was really doing it to the high levels of what most people are doing it now. So that journey in the very beginning, I think, probably is one of the most specific journeys that really gave you the industry knowledge that you needed to then bring what you did to the Harcourts family, first joining us in North America. Just so that everybody knows, Chris built our digital platform that we have now, that is affectionately called the Harcourts Vault, and that Harcourts International has implemented across all of the countries from the hub perspective. Is that was a brainchild of Chris's from the first degree for us, but then leaving to go to Harcourts International to help them with their digital presence. What do you see as the primary difference within the digital space in other countries? Is there any, or is there not?
I think there is tremendously between countries, between markets. I mean, the difference between California and Washington alone, like just going up the west coast of the United States, is polar opposites difference from a digital marketing standpoint, from a marketing perspective as a whole. Like, you need to understand every single market you go into. Every single market is unique. Every single market is different. People use different channels. People use different verbiage. They interact with different content. I mean,
Mm.
you go over to Australia specifically, and radio is still a thing. Which again, leaving here from the United States, I didn't think radio shows were even a thing anymore outside of like my sports radio that I listen to every once in a while. But you go to Australia and everybody listens to the radio,
Well,
which
also newspaper, as you know, is gigantic in Australia and New
newspapers
Zealand.
gigantic and stuff like that. And that's not to say that it's just the antiquated, or what we in America look at as antiquated marketing tactics over there. They're also really, the small businesses are so much more capable when it comes to a data perspective over there. They understand their target demographic. They understand who they're going after. I would go to a cafe and then I would get targeted with ancillary businesses that make sense. So they're very good when it comes to their small business marketing over there. I would say much better than America across the board when it comes to small business efforts. They are very much more data and tech enabled over there. And they just have freer access to the tools and the strategies over there. So
Yeah.
um,
I
I
think would you liken it to like the franchising? The financial system is that the tap to pay model had been in
exactly.
Australia. Like, I've been in the US now 10 years, and
Yeah.
I had tap to pay well before I left Australia, and it's only sort of just come in over the last couple of years into the North American model. Obviously, because it's such a big ship to turn. Would you say that the arduous size of what North America is one of the reasons they sort of lag a little bit in that sense, or no?
No, I think it's. I mean, I think that's a part of it. I think it is very hard to change the minds of 300 million people versus 30 million people or whatever's over in Australia. I think that is a big shift. But I think there's just advancements in different countries based on priority and need. And so Australia advances 10 times on a certain platform, but then America advances on a different one. And so I
Yeah.
think we just kind of put our carts before the horses on each country. And they're just trying to figure out which ones make sense for their specific needs. So
Okay.
like I would say, there's websites like Zillow. Like Zillow over here lapped anything that they have over there from an
Hmm.
Australia New Zealand standpoint. But it's because we had a market and we had a demand for it, and money got behind it, and we had startup and everything like that. It was in San Francisco, tech boom, everything that happened from that standpoint. While over there, they were playing catch up. They were playing catch up with REA and everything that they put together over there. And so if you looked at the two companies, you would say Zillow is far more advanced in that standpoint, but REA might be more profitable. And
Yeah.
so like it's like one hand over the other. They just see a need differently and they see the market differently and they attack it differently. So, and I think tap to pay is a great example of that over there as well.
It just goes to show, mate, is your lateral thinking of this industry from a digital and content and online acquisition perspective, having those vast learning curves. Like going over to Harcourts International, I think that I want to use this as an opportunity for people to understand your experience a little bit more of what you've been doing over the last number of years, because I think that going to Harcourts International, they said, hey, can you figure out what this looks like? Don't put it into play without us saying yes, but go and figure out how this looks. And I think that there was and again, with all due respect to those that were there, there was probably bottlenecked at the person that you reported to, in the sense that it's such a large industry to wrap your arms around. Is that I think they got scared of how large that ultimately was. Then leading into coming back to North America and going to I'm going to get this wrong, Pet Desk, or what is it?
Yep, it was Pet Desk when I
Pet
first came
Desk.
back. Yep.
And then Shiphawk is the one that you've recently just moved from. Is that those companies are startup companies with pretty big budgets around, hey, we need the online presence of this business, the online lead acquisition of this business. All of that stuff needs to be the, I don't know, the foundation of the business was built off it versus trying to plug it in later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Both those companies, I would say, the foundation was still built on the back of sales.
Okay.
So like their company got to where they were and got the budgets they needed to by having a great outbound sales team. But then there's times when outbound sales just caps and it hits a
Mm,
plateau. And I think we've experienced that here with Harcourts Auctions. We've experienced
absolutely.
that. I've experienced that hand over fist in every business that I've ever gone to, where you just can't make enough calls in the day. And so, how do we reach people at scale from that standpoint? I think from a Harcourts International perspective, it's very hard being the industry leader, if that makes sense. It's hard being one of the big players to make drastic and radical shifts in your marketplace because one, you might piss off the fan base that initially joined you and initially became a franchisee or became even a customer of your franchisee at that standpoint. While from a startup perspective, they don't have any barriers that they need to. They don't have any sacred cows. They just are able to kind of run, and if it makes a mistake they can pivot very quickly, and that's
Yeah.
that's where I think the big difference between a legacy company like Harcourts International, where they've been around since 1888, all the way to a startup that's been around since 2000 or 2018. So
Yeah.
it's just a drastic shift when it comes to mindset and the marketing departments as a whole.
Yeah, no, no, that makes total sense. Now, leading into now your role within Harcourts Auctions and sort of what we brought you over here to sort of help us with, as you know, the I would say the jack of all trades, so to speak, in the first degree until we really find our niche and where we're going to bring our product into. The one thing that obviously having you on the podcast is going to help all of our listeners is understanding those that are in the real estate space and even those that aren't in the real estate space. We're going to be speaking about basically our journey from a digital acquisition perspective and getting better presence out there and building a brand digitally. We're going to speak on that and the journey of what we're going to go through. And then Chris is obviously going to help with our insights from an agent perspective, understanding the principle of it. There's quite possibility, Chris, that you're one of the more valued digital people within real estate because of your vast understanding of that. You're not coming from a different space without the knowledge of real estate. And that was one of my real apprehensions in all of this, that if it wasn't you that came over, it was almost going to fall into the too hard basket of actually trying to train somebody on the real estate industry and have that digital understanding of where this world is going at the same time. And that mixture of both is really one of the things that I see as the real asset driven perspective of you and your role in this. But if we were to go deeper in and we were to sort of think about it a little bit further, is that you've sort of laid out a little bit of a plan for Harcourts Auctions and the way that we're going to go about things digitally. Obviously, people are re-listening to the podcast. Those that listened to it before, this was going to be one of the cornerstones. We're recording it. We're on YouTube. We're on all of these other avenues. Can you explain the different platforms that we're going to be targeting and whether they apply to a regular realtor out there? That would be probably a good place to start.
Yeah. So and not to obviously just kind of give everybody our playbook because our playbook's still unfolding and we obviously want our playbook to be successful. And sometimes with competition, people can, you know, cut off our playbook and stuff like that. But our entire playbook from our standpoint, we are going to be targeting a lot of people from our target demographic for two different reasons is agents and then potential home sellers down the road. And so what we're looking at is just providing Harcourts Auctions materials ahead of time to both educate and inform the market for both agents and sellers of who Harcourts Auctions is and who we're trying to serve. So the beauty of that is channels are unlimited these days. I mean, you can reach people if you're really good. You can reach people from anywhere from YouTube to Twitter to Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, anything you want to do. Our strategy is going to be to double down pretty intensely into one platform initially, and then have our subcategories at that point. So we're going to double down pretty heavily when it comes to shorts and reels and just short form content. So obviously, the podcast you guys are listening to is long form, but this long form podcast, what this allows us to do is it allows us to chunk up and take sound bites directly from this podcast and then share it out at scale. So the amount of people who can sit down and watch 30-minute 60-minute podcast is pretty rough. we can do it. Ben and I probably both I listen to them on my drives, podcasts, Audible, audiobooks, anything like that. I listen to them on my
Absolutely.
drives. Ben does it while working out and everything like that. And so there is still a market for that standpoint. And there's a great market for podcasts directly on YouTube. I mean, you see some of the biggest podcasts in the world blow up originally from going onto YouTube. So we will post the long form content directly on there. We will share the long form content directly on Facebook, LinkedIn, our website, stuff like that, channels we can own as well. But then from there, we're going to be taking little clips on this and we're going to be sharing them out because specifically Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn, everything from that standpoint are doubling down on this short form content right now. They just
Yep.
are. It's anytime these companies have a new feature, they push so much organic traffic behind this new feature. And
Yep.
right now we're sitting in a new feature, which is these shorts and these reels. So it'd be kind of irresponsible for us to not start our journey with the thing that Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn are pushing the most right now from an organic reach standpoint. We're also going to be putting paid efforts behind a lot of things that we're doing to try and reach our target audience specifically. Because in combination with the organic, that 1,000 organic views or whatever on each video, that could go to any 1,000 people. We want to
Well,
ensure that it's going to a
why don't we
1,000 right people.
why don't we give an example? The other
Yep.
day, we're just testing this, and Chris has put a little short reel together. I've done something from a perspective of the dirty word auction, so to speak, auction associated with foreclosure and whatever. So on our Instagram page, we did a quick little short of that. In the last 30 days, that has equated over the last 4 days or however long it's been up for 99.9% of all of the interest that has come through our page and all the views that have come through our page. Even to the extent, Chris, that you were mentioning to me, like, I didn't know that YouTube had shorts or little short videos until you'd mentioned it to me. I thought it was all long format. You know, you go on there. They've actually really, they're, as a company, they're doubling down on the short element of as well.
1,000%. And YouTube is probably my platform of choice. I have it on my TV. I watch a lot of videos on there. I mean, I watch tutorials from everything on, how to build a computer to how to build a podcast studio. So
Yep.
YouTube is probably my number one channel. And so shorts on there are exploding and it's equating to one of the biggest creators came up recently on YouTube and he said it's equating for 80% of his traffic,
Wow.
like on YouTube, which is just tremendous. And the fact that we're seeing on Instagram on the other side, 99% of our traffic in the month has come from one video over 4 days,
Yeah.
which is just madness to me. So, and that's with no hashtags, that's with no location, that's not using a specific audio thing where we found a good audio clip to like that's trending or anything like that. That's none of that. That's not just unique to us. That's a lot of companies are seeing that right now. So why wouldn't we go down the organic route when it's like that? It's free traffic for us, and maybe it might not be the right traffic for us. But that's where our paid efforts come into play as well. So we can ensure that we're both getting an organic of people not in the market right now, and then we're also capturing the people who are in the market right now with our paid advertising.
So a couple of questions that come to mind. First one that I want to ask about is that you haven't mentioned TikTok in this, and I'm seeing a lot of agents really actually levitate towards TikTok because of the ease of use.
Yep.
And I personally, my first thought, and you and I haven't even really discussed this, but my first thought is that it's the wrong audience. It's too young from a real estate standpoint, or am I wrong in that? Because let's face it, I have a guilty pleasure where I love a bit of TikTok. I'm telling you right now, I love a bit of TikTok.
You're one of the first people who I knew who was actually like double down in it. I remember just sitting in an airport and you're scrolling through TikTok over and over and over, and I'm like, interesting. And
Yep.
I'm the digital marketing guy, and I like TikTok's great, and I think TikTok has the smartest algorithm out there right now, from both a user perspective, but also from like a reach perspective. So from a user perspective, they are great at knowing what will keep you on their platform for hours at a time. Like they know, like their algorithm's so smart. And then from the other side, from a business perspective or a reach perspective, their algorithm's so smart by targeting the people who want to see your content the most. So
Yeah.
they've done a really great job on that. From a TikTok perspective, though, it's a little weary for me right now. And the reason why we've seen, over the last week or so, or the last couple of weeks, TikTok getting banned in a couple states, TikTok being on the federal ban and everything like that, like where they've kind of considered it and all this stuff, the privacy laws. There's a lot of interesting things going on with TikTok and like, the usage on your phone, and it's tracking a lot of other apps and
Oh,
everything like that.
so you're saying that there's a reason that their algorithm is so good because they pull so much more information than
Yeah.
what everybody else does. Like Facebook got like Facebook ads have gotten completely decimated from a revenue perspective because they obviously started to come back on the privacy laws and all of
Yeah.
that type of stuff. Would you liken it to the factors of like cold calling with the do not call register or the do not
Yes.
knock registers? Or like in Australia, you can't cold call somebody and you can't knock on their door essentially. The US isn't there just yet, but that's kind of the same thing. Is that where you're seeing it all go?
I think TikTok is very volatile right now. And I don't want to put all of our eggs in TikTok, all of our eggs in the TikTok basket, with it being volatile. Like I just we can't treble and quadruple down on reaching agents. One, from like, we have to ensure that our target audience, sorry about that, is on TikTok. But also, I don't want to double down on that being our engine of choice if that engine has any question of being shut down at any point. Like,
Yeah.
we don't own those engines. We don't own YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, imagine having your company's 90% of the traffic on Twitter, and then Elon buys it and then he just cans it. Like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to can that and then all your business was coming from TikTok, I mean from Twitter,
Yeah.
you'd be in a world of hurt, right? And
Yeah.
the same thing with YouTube or anything like that, or TikTok. There's a lot of volatility, and whenever there's volatility, I want to shy away a little bit. And
Yeah.
that there's companies that are going to double down on TikTok at this time, and they're going to make tremendous amount of money. Like, they're just going to, because of the nature of being volatile. But I think we have other avenues that we can target our demographic, and we know that our demographic is on those other platforms as well. So we're not wholly in like reliant on TikTok.
Right. Okay. So leading into this, I think that is that and diving deeper into it from an agent's perspective. If we go into, we're at the, towards the end of the year of 2022, we're leading into 2023, and when this podcast airs, it'll probably be in 2023 at that point. But I guess that from a digital presence, if I'm an agent out there in the agent world and community, what are some of the things that you would recommend that I do for the very first degree? Now, let's put it this way. I'm not somebody that like let's put a demographic out there. I'm not overly tech inclined. I'm not out there, doing too much social media. I'm not really playing it. But one of my goals is to have better social media presence in 2023. The thing that I hate and really actually pisses me off, and we try and steer our network away from it, anybody that we're talking to or dealing with, is that those generic just social tiles are no longer a thing. It just is, like putting up a property that you sold or a new listing on the market, they barely get any likes anymore. It actually, I disfollow people because of it. What would you recommend are some of the core things that an agent should look towards in 2023 to get better digital presence? What are some of the things they should work on?
Well, and let's hit on those property tiles and everything like that really quickly on that one. So I think those property tiles and, sharing, I just sold this property or just listed this property and everything like that, like, those were great a while ago, and they still serve a purpose right now. They still show that you're active and they still do all those things. But are they getting the reach? Are they getting the exposure? Are they like, do people care? Like,
Yeah.
they probably don't care. And I think what agents need to shift their mindset into, and I think every industry needs to shift their mindset into, is how can you give value to your audience? And this could be your 500 friends you have on Facebook. This could be your millions of followers you have on YouTube. Every single person who's doing it successfully and getting something back from it is putting stuff out there that gives them value for nothing. Like,
Mm.
period. It's called this value-based marketing, like content-based, value-based marketing, where you're pushing stuff out there that makes them want to listen, that makes them want to engage, makes them want to download, makes them want to see what you have going on. So I think if we start shifting the mindset to that versus this like, look at me situation, I sold another home, then you're going to have much more success long term. So it doesn't matter about the platform, it doesn't matter about what you're reaching them with, but think about who your audience is in each channel that you're thinking about, and how can you reach them with value, not asking for anything in return, not asking for a listing appointment right off the bat. Oh, can you refer me to, your friends who are looking to buy or sell? Like, that, those days are over. Those, Brian Buffini of like, refer me to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no. So the more we can give value of, whether it's, like we just had an interest rate change, right? That should be instantly content that you put out there of what that interest rate change means.
What type of content are we talking? Like a minute long video? Is that
Anything.
what you're talking about?
I'm talking about anything at this point. So
Okay.
if you don't want to be in front of a camera like we are right now, you could write this long form. Like
Yeah.
long form content on LinkedIn, long form content written down on Facebook, with a photo attached to it or anything like that. That could all be great. You can like write it in your notes, take a screenshot, and you can put that on Instagram.
There's a really good point in all of that, though, is that so even if I don't like the camera and I'm not really good in front of the camera and I don't know how the whole camera
Doesn't
thing
matter.
works and whatever, it doesn't matter. Long form text is still okay if it's informative and it's valuable.
Exactly. And that's what I would say with any content. Any content is okay if it's valuable and it's speaking to an audience that will engage with it. You got to think all these algorithms care about is that someone hits that like button, someone hits that share button, someone hits like the reaction button, leaves a comment. Like that's all these algorithms care about. So the more you can get people to do that, the more reach your content's going to get from even just the people who already follow your pages or are friends with you on Facebook. Like your post is not going to get reached out to all of your friends and family, all the 500,000 people out there, unless it gets likes and interaction. So, how
Yeah.
much more can you put that into based on either long form content, video content, a photo? It does not matter. But just focusing on what will they like? What will
Yeah.
they appreciate?
Yeah, a few little ideas that I've seen out there, guys, that I think could be really useful as well is that so there's an agent, I think they're in Texas. I can't really remember if it's Texas or it's like Nashville or something like that. But they go through and they're not selling the home. They're not going, hey, look at my listing at 38 Smith Street or whatever it may be, because they know that the likelihood of a buyer coming from that is probably very, very slim. What they're doing is they're going, anytime that there's something unique or a design that works or something good about that property, or even not good about that property, they are doing a quick little short form video to go, hey, this is a little thing about the property. I think that the last one was like a hidden staircase under the kitchen for a seller. And then another one was, I think she did a really good job of it. It's kind of like one of my favorite podcasters is called, I think it's Failure to Launch, where it talks about failed startup companies. And that's got way more listeners than what a successful podcast does, around success in the startup world. Is that it's funny how she goes, look, I want you to have a look at this, is that this layout of this home is not ideal. One thing that I think that we would recommend to anybody that has a property like this, just quickly chop off this wall. It changes the flow of the room or whatever it may be. You've got to put your opinion out there in order for that to work in some way, in order to get some people to come back to you or even get that interaction. And, sometimes something that's a little politically incorrect or taboo can certainly work as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like we know negativity reaches on social media platforms. It just does. As crazy as that is, and that's not saying go out there and have the most radical political beliefs on your social media profile, where your clients and your family and your friends who might also buy from you or sell from you are on there as well. Because then you're going to ostracize some of your clientele. Like I'm not saying go in and do that, but I mean sharing your opinions, sharing your thoughts, sharing your experience. We always talk about this, but the most watched TV shows and like pretty much movies are people working.
Yeah.
And it's the Alaskan fishermen's and it's the real estate home fixers and it's the real estate agents, the $1 million listings and stuff like that. Like these are the most watched TV shows in the history of TV right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not just in our country, every country. Like
Yeah.
in Australia, the number one is The Block, and which
Yeah,
is
the block,
crazy.
yeah, which is a real estate show where people jump on, like they get given a decrepit property and then
Yep.
they have to build it, and then they get judged on each individual room, and then it goes up for auction. And they, yeah, again, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I guess that another one that I've seen as well is that like if you feel uncomfortable doing your own listings or you don't have any listings, they go and do tours of properties at the agent thing, and they fast forward those property tours, and then they do a voice recording over it explaining hey, these are the things that you need to look out for in a property. See, I wouldn't recommend this home because there's too many stairs and whatever it is, and giving an opinion of that type of property itself. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but wanted to ask a quick favor. If you're seeing any value in what we're providing, we'd love it if you could like, follow, or subscribe, whether you're listening on a podcast or watching us on YouTube. One step further is that if you can think of anybody in your community that this episode could help, we'd love it if you could share it to them so we could cast our message further and broaden our audience. Thanks again.
Yeah, and what I was getting at with the TV show stuff is people want to understand what it's like to be in your shoes. And so the more you can create content that's around your shoes and how you're navigating this real estate industry, even if it's just your journey of going from a new agent to a successful agent, people want to understand those journeys. People want to understand what it takes to be successful and have success in a tough industry like real estate. So the more you can share out your activity-based marketing, like stuff that you're doing day to day, the better it's going to be. Even if you're sitting in your office in front of 3 different screens and you have a million offers on your desk, that you're going through and you're staying there till 9 p.m., even sharing stuff like that out on your Instagram stories and stuff like that that expire after 24 hours, that's beneficial. And I would say that's more beneficial than sharing the latest listing you sold, because
Yep.
then it shows people that you are working, that you're hustling, that you're actually committed to getting results for your clients. Like
Yeah.
that would be hand over fist way better than posting the same Instagram tile of, a photo that you or a property that you guys just sold.
Some examples that people might want to have a look at also is that you've got Shannon and John Crom from up in Bend, Oregon, a
Yep.
team that we work with up there. They've done an incredible job on long form, and they don't talk really about real estate much. They talk about the area of Bend more than anything else, and their inbound business is unbelievable. Then you've got Tara McCoskey, who's our one of our agents out in South Carolina, Columbia. She's just going through the journey of her day to day at the moment on her Instagram, not reels, but a story themselves. So that's another thing that I just wanted to talk about, Chris, is that reels last longer than what a story does. So can you just give us the different versions of all of this?
Yeah, so stories are is basically the Snapchat version of Instagram. So stories was what they ripped off from Snapchat, to be
Got it.
candid. So it's really quick videos that last 24 hours on your story. You can save those and you can attach those to your profile and let them live there. So if you have like a properties like little highlight for your stories, you can live that on your Instagram page for the entire time, and people can go back and they can look at properties from 2 years ago, 3 years ago that you helped sell. Reels, however, is more of a post. It's a 60 second. I think it's 60 second or 90 second, depending. It's 90 second on Instagram. It's 60 seconds on YouTube. So it's 90 seconds, and those are more of a post. Those can get a lot of organic reach, and they live there forever. So they live on your page the entire time. There's no reason to delete them or move on from them or anything like that. So that is what they stole from TikTok. So you'll notice from a Facebook standpoint, they steal a lot. They
Yeah,
steal
yeah, yeah.
ideas, and there's a reason why they steal ideas, and there's a reason why stories and reels have just catapulted Instagram recently,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
because of that.
Well, I guess that leading into 2023, a digital presence is something that I wanted to make sure that everybody has an understanding of, that your digital presence is important to the nurturement of an already client base that may know you or don't really know, or know you from afar. You've got to continue to nurture that and build that sphere, so to speak. I don't want anybody to think that building this is going to be an incredible lead platform that's going to be inbound for your business, and that's the only resource that is going to be to you. I think that you need to understand that this is a nurture program in the beginning until you get really good at it. Would that be a fair statement, Chris?
Yeah, it's a long game. Think of it as anytime you're doing anything organic, it's always going to be a long game. So if you're thinking of SEO, if you're thinking of Instagram, you're thinking of anything like that, and you're trying to attract followers for nothing, you're not paying those platforms to drive anybody to you. It's going to be a very long term game of showing value. People sharing, people forwarding things inside of messages and everything like that to other friends. There's going to be a lot of different ways that they have to find you, and it's never going to be easy. So I would say that's if you're going to try to make an organic strategy, it's going to be something that's going to prove, a positive ROI for your business 12 months, 16 months, 18
Yeah.
months down the road.
Quick question to wrap things up is Facebook dead? It feels dead to me. For some reason, it feels dead.
I mean, it's not dead in a sense. I think yeah, it's a tough question. I think from an advertising standpoint, it's still out there. I think it did take a giant hit when it came to the legislations and the stuff that happened when it comes to the Supreme Court. And I think just the role that they played in elections and everything like that, or if they didn't play, who knows? But I think that's what kind of slowly eroded Facebook. And I think in other countries that they're having a tough time too. But if you say Facebook's dead, then you're not taking into consideration how Instagram has grown year on year, and they continue to go forward. So I think Facebook recently just had their first down year of like new users and stuff like that, which is catastrophic, honestly, when you think about it. But there's only so many people on the planet, and they finally
Yeah.
are going to hit their plateau. But Instagram is still catapulting ahead.
Yep.
That's where these other platforms too. Is TikTok going to stay here forever and stuff like that? Like that'll be
Yeah.
the big questions.
Yeah, because again, I think like Snapchat's kind of dead as well, and then you've got
Snapchat definitely. Snapchat got destroyed when it came to Instagram stories, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
They that was one of the biggest things. That was like a stake through the heart from Facebook to Snapchat. I do think, however, platforms like LinkedIn, I think, are tremendous these days. I think from an organic standpoint,
It kind of feels like LinkedIn's like had this organic, like, well, not organic. They've had this growth while, because there's been so much chatter and so much shit on other
yep.
platforms. It's kind of like, from a business sense, I kind of find myself going there to get rid of the noise.
And I think from a standpoint from LinkedIn, once everybody started working from home, I think what you saw just a massive spike on LinkedIn because it was up in the background. And it's mostly up in the background when you're at your office, anyways. But then you don't have to worry about someone coming over your shoulder and think you're looking for new jobs. So now, like from a user perspective, LinkedIn is tremendous. And I think from an organic reach perspective, it's one of the easiest algorithms to capitalize on and get exposure for your posts. All you need is a few people to like your post, reshare your post, and then it goes off to the races. Like
Yeah,
it is really, they've kind of taken the old algorithm of Facebook, in my opinion, and that's just from an outsider's perspective. They've taken that old algorithm that basically would prop up your posts pretty easily from likes, and
yeah.
that's what LinkedIn does really well.
And then again, I know I said final point, but I've got one more thing that's come to my mind, is that it bothers me, the inconsistency of people just throwing, like, because you've got some people that don't put hardly any content up. They just do some of the tiles. And then if they do some of the tiles, you can kind of feel like they're automated and like they're not really
Yep.
personal and all of that type of stuff. It's the same reason that, I just listed XYZ property, doesn't get any likes. And then you put up a photo of your family saying Merry Christmas, it gets 250 likes.
Yep.
It's obviously, people love that personal experience. Does it do harm you becoming a pest on social media? And what I mean by that is that
100%.
just like throwing story after story after story after reel after this after that, people thinking that more is less, and that people that are thinking, yeah, more is better.
Yep.
Like, and like just sharing random stuff without their own thoughts on it. I know I'm guilty of that, but yeah,
There's always a balance, and I would say if you're looking and you have a personal profile and you're trying to capitalize like a Facebook personal profile or even your Instagram personal profile, and you're trying to tackle those and kind of use those as your channel, you have to have a good balance when it comes to personal life and your business life. And look at it as your personal stuff's always going to get the most interaction. It just will. People love my pictures of my kids more than they love me, and they love me like, or like my family more than they love my business, and that's just inherently true. But if I use those and I sandwich my business stuff in the between all my kids stuff, it's
yeah,
going to prop up my business stuff because Facebook's going to think that this is a similar post to what just got 200 likes. So if I sandwich that between something that just got 200 likes, just know that the third post that I'm talking about in the back half of the sandwich is going to also get hit. So like it can't be like a picture of like, your wife or something like that, and she might take offense to it only getting 20 likes now because you just put a business post right after that. Which is 100%, it could happen to some families. But just know that if you put your business stuff directly after something that got a lot of interaction, Facebook will prop that up. And I'm not saying an hour after, I'm saying a couple days after, a day after, stuff like that. You need to capitalize on Facebook thinking that you're relevant, and then put it out there from that standpoint. If you post multiple times a day, one of those is going to take off and the other one's not going to get any reach at all. So
yeah.
just know that.
Awesome. Great to have you back on the team, mate. We'll look forward to some further insights in the digital world from Christopher later on. Thanks, everybody. Well, if you've gotten this far, it either means that I'm on autoplay speaking to nobody, or you got to the end of the episode because you like what we do. If that's the case, I'd love your help. If you could like, follow, or subscribe, whether you're listening on a podcast or you're watching us on YouTube, that would really mean the world to us as we try and expand our message and our audience. Maybe one step further, asking a little too much, but if you could leave a positive review or share this episode with somebody that you think would find it beneficial, that would help advance our audience. Also, if you're looking for any future topics for us to cover, if you're watching on YouTube, just comment below, or to reach out, ben.brady@harcourtsauctions.com. Thanks again.